You ever have one of those moments where you're just standing in your own yard, minding your business, and out of nowhere someone decides you're the enemy of the entire neighborhood? That's exactly how my wildest years started. Picture this. I'd barely finished unpacking at our new place on Oak Street, still mourning the loss of my wife, just trying to give my kids Emma and Jake a better shot at a normal life. We'd finally left behind that cramped, haunted apartment scraped together enough for a ranch-style house with some decent trees and a yard that actually felt like ours. And suddenly I get ambushed by the queen bee of Karens. Not even exaggerating. She marched up my walkway in designer heels, all business, all attitude, looking like she was late for a hostile takeover. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she said. Except her smile looked like it had been glued on with malice, not kindness. That's how I met Beth Crawford, president of the Meadowbrook Community Association, or as I later learned, self-appointed dictator of everything within a 6-block radius. She hands me a manila envelope, all official stickers and membership forms going on, about how I needed to pay my introductory dues. $500, she said, like she was doing me a favor. Thing is, I'd already checked the property records. My house wasn't even inside the HOA boundaries. She wasn't interested in facts, though. "We're expanding," she claimed, giving me that look. You know, the one people use right before they threaten to call your manager. She talked about community values and belonging so much, I thought maybe I'd stumbled onto a cult, not a suburb. I told her politely at first I wasn't interested, and legally I wasn't obligated. That's when her smile broke, just a tiny flicker, but I saw it. She dropped the friendly mask and started hinting at problems for people who don't fit in code for, "I'm going to make your life hell." I handed back the envelope, told her to have a nice day, and tried to get back to fixing my fence. I thought that was the end of it. Yeah, you see where this is going, right? Half an hour later, the siren started. Not subtle, 2 patrol cars, 4 officers, and me standing there in my backyard like a deer in headlights. Turns out Beth had called 911 spinning some wild story about me being a threat to community safety. The officers, Johnson and Martinez, looked like they'd been through this song and dance before. But here's the twist. Johnson recognized me from a cyber fraud case I'd helped them with months earlier. Suddenly the whole script flipped. Beth tried to turn it up a notch, but Johnson wanted specifics and Beth had none. That's when Mrs. Hoffman, my elderly neighbor from across the street, swept in out of nowhere. Now, if Beth was Queen Bee, Mrs. Hoffman was something else entirely. 70 sharp as a razor with a folder of original development plans from the 80s and the backbone of someone who's seen it all. She told the officers right in front of Beth that my house and a bunch of others were outside the HOA, and this wasn't Beth's first time playing dirty. 3 other families had been hassled the same way. Mrs. Hoffman's got a background in the federal court system, 20 years as it turns out. That put a real chill in the air. Suddenly, Beth looked like a kid caught stealing cookies, mumbling about vigilance and integration. The officers told her straight up to stop with the false reports or she'd be the one facing charges. Beth stormed off, but I had a sinking feeling she wasn't done. Mrs. Hoffman stayed behind. "We need to talk," she said. "There are things about this neighborhood you should know." She wasn't kidding. That night, as I tried to get some sleep, I kept thinking about a sticker I'd seen on Beth's BMW, a symbol I recognized from old FBI briefings tied to extremist groups. Yeah, you read that right. By morning, I was back in cybersecurity mode, digging into the HOA's online footprint. I found links to groups flagged for hate speech websites, registered the same week Beth's husband lost his mayoral race and language that sounded less like a neighborhood association and more like a dog whistle to certain values. When Mrs. Hoffman dropped by, she laid it all out. Maps document surveillance. She'd been tracking Beth for months. Every family Beth had harassed was either visibly progressive or just didn't fit her mold. The folks who joined her fake HOA, every one of them, same political signs, same traditional flags. It wasn't a neighborhood watch, it was a soft purge. She called it soft terrorism, systematic harassment until families moved out. And the escalation was nuts. Broken windows, dog poop on porches, internet cut, all targeting those who wouldn't join. I told Mrs. Hoffman about the symbol on Beth's car. She got even grimmer. She'd seen that group before, and not just as a court clerk. Turns out she was an intelligence analyst specializing in domestic extremism. Suddenly, my HOA dispute felt like the least of my worries. Then out of the blue, Beth called me again. This time she sounded smoother. "You still have time to join Marcus," she purred, offering to waive my fees if I'd come to her special meeting. Mrs. Hoffman was in my living room shaking her head like crazy. She knew exactly what was coming. I told Beth no again. Her tone turned icy. "It'd be a shame if your kids didn't fit in here. Social rejection can be so hard on children." She gave me until Friday to change my mind. After that, she said the community will have to take steps. Yeah, that's when we called the FBI. Turns out the feds had been watching this group, but they needed evidence, real actionable evidence. And since I'd been invited to Beth's Saturday night neighborhood meeting, they wanted me to wear a wire. Mrs. Hoffman objected, but the truth was clear: nobody else could get inside without blowing the case. Meanwhile, Beth launched a social media war. By the next morning, fake accounts were flooding Facebook with lies about me, bots, sock puppets, you name it. Emma was shunned at school. Jake's guitar teacher dropped him like a hot potato. The whole machine was turning, trying to grind us down. I traced the IPs, every last one of those accounts traced back to Beth's neighborhood. It wasn't just harassment anymore, it was coordinated psychological warfare. Saturday came and I walked into Beth's house, wired up, knowing Emma and Jake were safe at Mrs. Hoffman's place under federal protection. Beth's living room was packed 15 people, all nodding along to her speech about saving America. Her son Dylan was there hulking in the corner, watching me with that flat soldier stare. What started as your typical HOA rant spiraled into a full-on extremist rally-coded talk about defending our community, direct action. And then Dylan just dropped the act. He pulled out maps, blueprints, security schedules, federal buildings, the courthouse, the works. He talked casualties like they were numbers on a spreadsheet. Then Beth turned the whole room on me. She claimed there was a mole, and Dylan accused me of being wired. For a second, I thought it was all over. But that's when the FBI crashed in tactical teams, flooding the place, voices booming, weapons drawn. Dylan tried to fight Agent Morrison. The lead on the case dropped him before he could pull the trigger. Beth stood there, wrists zip-tied, mask finally shattered, mumbling about wanting to take back what we lost. Dylan screamed about patriots and stormtrooper tactics, blaming his mother even as he was dragged out. I'd never seen fanaticism unravel so fast. The fallout was huge national news, the largest domestic terror bust since Oklahoma City. Beth got 15 years. Dylan got 25. Over 80 arrests across a dozen states. Our neighborhood, my home, started healing. Families came back. New ones moved in. The fake HOA was dissolved. We actually had a real block party that summer. People laughing for real, not because they were told to. Emma and Jake became little local celebrities, though Emma still asks why the mean lady wanted to hurt people she never even met. As for Mrs. Hoffman, or should I say Eleanor Chen Hoffman, she retired for real now, organizing potlucks and garden projects, living proof that not all heroes wear badges or capes. Sometimes they just show up at the right moment and refuse to look away. You want to know what it's like to fight extremism on your front lawn? It's messy, scary, and sometimes lonely, but I learned something that year. Decent folks outnumber the bad ones by a mile. You just have to stand up, dig in, and when the moment comes, refuse to play along with hate, no matter how much pressure they put on you. That's how we took our block back from the edge. So here's my question to you. Where do you draw the line between community standards and outright abuse? When does vigilance become vigilantism? I want to hear your take. Drop a comment. Tell me what you'd do if your HOA or anyone else tried to strong-arm your family in the name of values. Let's get the real conversation going, because that's how we stop this kind of thing from ever taking root again.